Well, hello. My YouTube thing is getting a little weird. I noticed this. I think there's some settings. My last post. Oh, by the way, this is a short talk in the park with the old guy. As your friend Mike. Well, I hope I'm your friend. Yeah, at least I hope I'm not your enemy. I'm out here and I'm just enjoying the green and the cool. I love sitting underneath this. There's a couple of big old pine trees. Well, they're not huge. Big old pine trees. And this sounds weird, but there's good energy here. I can sense it. I don't know. It's good to be near a pine tree. I don't know why. I saw some pine cones here earlier. You don't want to sit on them. Oh, you might. I don't know. I don't want to know about that. Hey, I'm out here at the park, and I was just thinking today. I just thought, wow, the world is it's changing so fast. I'm 64. I remember my old dad used to talk about this kind of thing. Well, he was born in 21. So, when he was a boy, he was wandering behind farm horses, great big work. I think they called them Belgian Bays. I think that's what he said. Belgian Bay. I'm not sure I'd recognize a Belgian Bay if it bit me in the butt. But anyway, he was out, they were pulling plows in the dirt with a horse. That was my dad. Now, they had a tractor by the time he was a teenager, and it was just this old crazy ka-tonk, ka-tonk, ka-tonk thing. I've seen these ancient tractors out at the state fair, and they have steel wheels on the main drive wheel, and these big lug things that stick out to get traction. He used to talk about this a lot. He'd say, I've seen an awful lot of change in my life, an awful lot. He said, when I was a boy, we didn't have a phone. But he remembers when they brought power in out there near Port Huron when he was a boy. It was a big deal. You know what they did? They hung up a light bulb. That was it. Well, I think it kind of spread from there because by the 30s they had a radio. But there's changes happening now that are, I don't know how to describe them. It kind of creeps me out. To be honest with you, the rate of change, something ain't right. Something's got to give. Humans were not meant to consume, mountains and mountains of data per day. It's sort of like there's I think of it as I gotta use my hand, sorry. I think of it as like a tsunami of like word information. But I keep thinking, now wait a minute, why would you release 10 trillion words or more without an agenda? In other words, there would be a guiding insight there, wouldn't there? It's like people don't write books just for the sheer enjoyment of writing words on paper. No, there's a story. There's a narrative. There's a reason the story is being told. You're supposed to learn something. I get the feeling the universe is crooked. Well, there's that too. World's changing, man. And I'll be straight up. I'm a Calvinist. I'm one of the bad guys. Okay, okay. You can go ahead and hate on me. I'm a Calvinist, and it isn't because it's like something I'm super proud of or something like that. It's just that the other options seemed so horribly bad. It's like, how do you even recognize your tradition as having anything whatsoever to do with the data we'll call the scripture? Because I'm not getting this. Everybody, of course, says, well, we're the true Christians and everybody else is a bunch of phony baloney. Yeah, sure, all right. Well, anyway, I'm not like that. I think there's a lot of good Christian believers, and yes, they might be Roman Catholic, and yes, they might be Orthodox, and I have no sympathy for either group. I went up last weekend, and I did a video, or a real brief one. I went up to an Orthodox monastery that I'd heard about because I was just so dazzled. There's a guy on YouTube, and Father so many, I have no idea what this guy's name is. But I did share it to YouTube, to Facebook. Does that count? Where is the Christian witness? Where? And here it was hearing an Orthodox man, and this dude was rock solid. This dude was biblical, man. The words he says make sense. So I was all excited, and I think, holy mackerel, maybe there's some people out there in Christian land who've come out of their coma and want to talk about what's actually happening in this real world. That'd be interesting. So I drove all the way up there. It's like a 5-hour drive, but I love that country up there. It's the Jemez. Oh gosh, it's so beautiful. And I kept thinking to myself, how could I have forgotten this? And I thought, well, maybe I'd never noticed it in the first place. I don't know. Friend, brother, sister, trust Jesus. You really should. You're not going to improve on that. Let me just put it that way. But there's so much to learn. And the world is, I mean, I'm hearing about things now that are just blowing my mind. None of this was real in 1967 or 77 or 87 or 97, I can tell you. But this idea that we're somehow operating inside a similarity, what do they call it? Simulation, not a similarity. Well, who knows what it is? In other words, here's the brute question we really got to answer. Do we really? Are we in a base reality, or are we in a simulation? How would I know? I don't know what a simulation is. However, if you want to talk about base reality, John Calvin comes to the rescue again. He walks right in the door and goes, well, you know what? If what you want to know, let me give you a clue. See, remember the whole thing about blessed be Yahweh and blessed be his holy name. What was the name? Remember Moses? Moshe. Good guy. You gotta love Moses. Anyway, the point being, so he says, the God says, go get them kids, bring them back here. And he says, look, they're not going to trust me. I mean, come on. Who am I? I'm just an old out-of-work shepherd, man. He's trying to find every way he can to get out of this deal. You got the wrong guy, man. I'm really bad with words. Talk to my brother or something. Get out of here. Quit bugging me. That's so real, man. That's the way you talk to God. That's how you pray. Say, hey, man, you got the wrong gringo, man. Move on. Go find some talent, Bubba. That's the way Moses was talking to the Almighty. Except, of course, it was all holy and stuff, But anyway, fire and whatever. Anyway, the short version is, what we need is comfort built upon a strong sense of security that even though it's sort of like this huge blender out there in the world, trends and words and ideas, and I don't even know what. A lot of fantasies, a lot of lies, a lot of corruption, a lot of world record bad stuff, politics, finance. Who can follow it all? It'd be like, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to funnel 12 years of news into 3 days. Oh, okay. Now what? We'll do it again. And they keep doing it. I mean, there's so much information coming down the pike that I'm just sure I'm not going to digest that. But the key isn't that you can do all the math and you can do all the, have all the high-flown, credentials and the PhDs and the hoo-hoo, and this gives you the ability finally to say something because you're one of the knowers, one of the insiders. Nah, man. If something's worth knowing, it ought to be something so clear and good and plain that even an old fart like me can understand it. Even a little kiddo. Even an old lady. Not necessarily your Einsteins and your Feynmans and your other brilliant minds. I love this Braden guy. This guy's smart. He got a lot up there. Anyhow, I want to say, so often I just feel scared at how fast things are. Everything's changing. It's too quick. It's just too quick. And what's happening is we're forgetting who we are. We're forgetting that we're human beings. Because with all this tech crap, and I think it's C-R-A-P is how you spell that, in case you were looking to find that word in a lexicon, crap, that is being palmed off. That somehow our digital doohickeys, our devices, our algorithms, our AI, our quantum computing, and all the rest of the crap they got is going to somehow perfect us or make us like super creatures or, something like that. Why would we be building that unless we already knew, in a way, a little bit, kind of an ancestral memory? Why would we build that unless we're trying to remember something about who we are? We've been marvelously made by our Maker. Fantastic designer. I mean, this guy is off the scale brilliant. When I was a little kid, we used to talk about cells, like in science class, 5th grade. What's a cell? It's like this little bag thing, okay? And there's a whole slug of these little bags bumping up against each other, and they kind of look like that. Little loops, little circles. Yeah, but anyway, that's what your body is. No, we had no idea what the heck this cell was in 1966. It'd be like trying to describe the perfect roast beef sandwich with just all the right relish and amazing hot mustard and whatever else, as describe it as kind of like, well, yeah, there are carbohydrates and proteins we must consume. You take the romance out of it, you take the humanity out of it, no longer you have any desire. Here's the whole problem, see? It's a little bit like, if you can imagine, let's look at that left hand, look at that guy go, let's pretend my left hand went bad. I had no control. It just, that's all it does, that's all. Well, guess what? They got robotics now. They can get some little sensors and hook me up to a RAM drive or something like that, and I'll be able to do that again, right? That's wonderful. If folks can benefit from things like that, where, let's say somebody loses a limb or something terrible happens, and if you can get a robotic, assistant arm or a leg or whatever, I don't know, well, good for you. God bless you, man. But to think that default status, human qua human, that the ideal human is essentially therefore a robotic cyborg thing-a-jig, devoid of emotion, processing direct, into a quantum all-knowing computer, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, crap. Get out of here. You know what people want? They want lives where they can stand in the sun and breathe fresh air and give thanks to the God above, the God who made us all, for his love. And so they want to be able to turn around and they want to treat other people well. But they can't because they're afraid. They're so afraid. And they start hating. They start saying all kinds of crazy stuff. And because they're being carried away by their own unwillingness, really, to face the facts that we are marvelously made as creatures in the image. Imageo, I think, would be. Well, guess what? The Imageo himself, Mr. Image himself, the inventor of dirt, that's what I call him. Guess what, man? He showed up. Right here, on this world. Here, where you and I live. And guess what we did? Murdered him and threw his body over the fence. Well, that's the way he described it. That's actually rather generous on his part. It was disgusting what we did to the sun when he came. And they'd do it again if they had an opportunity. Trust me. The world has not learned. Not a bit. If you've got the cross of Jesus across your heart, that means you got an X on your forehead. You're a target. Deal with it. Move on. Remember the early martyrs. Remember the Romans. They said, hey, if you rascals and you troublemakers want to worship this Jesus guy, well, guess what? We're going to throw you to the lions, or, whatever they could come up with. Guess what? The Christians were lining up. Hey, me next. Hey, can I get in on this action? Hey, come on. Trust me, I love lions, or whatever. The early church was not afraid. Many lost their lives. And guess what? It's going to happen again. There's coming a bloodbath. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a financial wipeout. It's going to be ugly. coming to great darkness. But you know at the end of the dark, you know what you got coming to the end of the dark? He who is the light of the world. I honestly believe in my heart, I'm 64. I honestly believe that I will not go to the grave before I see Yahweh, the Holy One, return with his hosts to do justice in earth with holy fury. I think it's coming down. You know, I think I've mentioned this before. It's just one of my favorite verses, so I'm just going to wow you with it again. It wows me. I'm probably going to foul it up. There's a verse in the Bible where Jesus says, shall the Son of Man find faith on earth when he returns? And you know what we've done with that as Christians, I think, now, of course, maybe I'm exaggerating. I'm probably going too far. What we've done with that is, shall the Son of Man find faith? We kind of go, well, let's see here. Let's see. Well, given the rapture and the 3.5 years and the Antichrist and blah, 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 all this knucklehead crap about will we be here at that time? You know what it's supposed to do? It's supposed to build courage in you. It's supposed to give you a little heart. And here's how it works. Shall the Son of Man find faith on earth when he returns? And you're supposed to stand up and say, damn straight he will. Well, it's like, well, how can you be so sure, Mr. Mike? You're just a high school educated plumber after all. I'll tell you how I know. I'll be there. And I hope my little brothers who are only 14 years old and maybe not even yet born yet, and the young guys who are 30 and the women, and I hope you can hear me. What I'm saying is he's inspiring in you the sense to stand up and say, hey, I don't care who this Mickey Mouse Challenger guy is, this so-called devil. He's roadkill, man. He lost bad. And guess what? He's going into the fire, and he knows it. He knows he has no hope, and yet he's still trying to tear people down to make them more like him. Dark. Don't be dark, be light. And I mean, the light of the world is himself, Jesus of Nazareth. Walk in the light. I said walk in Jesus. Breathe free, fresh air. He's the fresh, clean air that restores you. Drink some good mountain spring water. He's the water of life that bubbles up. You see what I mean? Everything's a little bit of a mirror, in a way, every bit of creation. Look at them trees right behind me. They're all shouting out there, yeah, that Yahweh guy, he rocks, man. Look at it, what he's done. He's created us to live and to be and have a time and to understand to some degree. I don't understand things really that well, neither do you. But you don't have to. What you have to know is you are understood and received warmly. Not because you're good. Because let's face it, you ain't. And that's why I'm a Calvinist. I just give up on that hokey pokey about trying to be nice enough guy to somehow schmooze my ass into heaven. No. I can't even believe it. There's no way I'm going to pull that off on him. He ain't going to buy it for a minute, man. So I'm not going to walk up to him and tell me, look here, let me just tell you, Mr. Almighty, how very terribly spiritual I am, after all. And I don't need you to tell me anything. People are so stupid, it's amazing. But it's a good stupid. There's a little passage in one of the C.S. Lewis books I so love, those little children's books for Narnia. That guy could write, man. That guy, he's a genius. I want to sit down and have a beer with that guy someday. But anyway, it was this crazy island. I can't remember the name of it. These things are, I think, Thuddle Pumps or something. I don't know what these guys are called. But he based it upon mythic characters. He was an ancient English scholar, dude. I mean, the guy was brilliant in a lot of ways. But in other words, these mufflepuds or whatever they were called, dufflepuds, something like that. It was like this huge foot. That was attached. There was a little man attached to the top of the foot. And they just kind of hop around, bang, bang. And they were, shall we say, unruly. But they were so stupid. And yet the children, even the children, and of course the good wizard in the story, he didn't hate them. I mean, they were malicious, but they weren't malicious because they knew anything. They were malicious because they just didn't know anything at all. And they just kept making terribly bad choices. And that's a little bit like us, I think. That's kind of a photo of us. In other words, it would be wonderful, couldn't it? Wouldn't it be if I could just take a snapshot of you across the street and say, oh, look, there's a Satanist right there. I know who he is or she is, and I can define everything that they're all about. So I don't have to talk with them. Really? In other words, if you want to shear off everybody into this kind of us and them, us and them, guess what happens? The us keeps getting smaller. Pretty soon it's just you and me, and frankly, I'm not so sure about you. That's what happens. Don't let it go there, man. That's unnecessary. Jesus opens you up. He makes you glad. He gives you energy when you ain't got none. And he gives you a want to when you just wish you hadn't. It's a new world out there every day. His mercy is new every day, every morning. Doesn't matter how fast the tide comes. Doesn't matter how hot and heavy the fight gets. He's above it. He designed it. He placed us here right now in our lives. You're here on this world at this time for a reason. Think about it. All the not thousands. I don't know. Is it 100 generations of Christians? And then there's all the Jews, the believing Jews, who loved Yahweh of the Bible and followed his way. I don't know how many believers there are, but it's gathering them all into one new community from around the world, across the age, from every tribe and tongue and language, women, men, old, young, rich, poor, educated and not. He's making something new, and you're going to be a part of it. A lot of our Christian brethren and the Jewish believers who came before, and they're still Jewish believers today, God bless them, but a lot of those folks, they really look forward to the idea that, well, maybe I'll be able to see, in my lifetime, the Messiah come. I want to see him open up that almighty-sized can of whoop ass, if you like my opinion. Now, I'm speaking for them. That's not fair. That's just me. Rest. Find rest. And it isn't from drugs, and it isn't from TV, and it isn't from activities and vacations and stuff. You just learn somehow to quit talking on the inside. Just shut down the chatter. And if you want to say something that sounds like this. Yahweh, hear me. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Help me. He hears. I am a testimony to that. I bear witness that God hears prayer, and he'll hear yours too. Don't you give up. He never will. And he knows what he's doing. Amen. You guys have a good day.